Lynne, it's great to meet you for the first time, and I'm really interested. Obviously, your career's been very interesting, but how important has cash been in your life, in business, and also to you personally?
Well, I suppose in a way, cash was the start of my professional work, which was working in my dad's butcher shop from the age of 12, which was all done on cash, of course. That was back in the 50s and early 60s.
Yeah.
So learning how to deal with cash and count cash and be responsible about cash was very much part of what I did as I wrapped up the sausages and the mincemeat.
And where did the cash go? Into the bank?
Yeah,
Local
the cash
bank?
went into the bank. Well, it went into my father's trouser pockets and then draped home, and then it would go into, my mother would then take it out and put it in the paying book and put it in the bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it was probably quite a cash business in terms of what they paid out as well, I should think, to suppliers. It was a cash world.
Well, that's right. People used to get paid in cash. Everybody got paid in cash, really, in 1950s.
Staff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, different times and good times, actually.
So, do you think cash is still important today?
I think it's incredibly important, and that's why I was so pleased when you contacted me, because getting rid of cash is, I think, getting rid of freedom in a way, and it's an extremely important matters really for women. I mean, I work with women, as you know. I was PR for years. I used to know what was going to happen with the consumer before they knew themselves, and I would create trends and movements and all kinds of things. And I still have that kind of sniffing out what people really want. But these days, my work's very much more with women at the grassroots, single mums. Women are starting up their own little businesses from home, the ones with the side hustle. It's all about women and an economy, really, a different economy, a critical mass that, if encouraged, could be very, very beneficial to the whole country. But that business world has stopped relying on cash completely, and I think it's a real shame. And I, on top of my work coaching and teaching women how to start their own small businesses, is also part of running a hub, which is a converted pub, which is a women's co-working space and a cafe and a B&B. So, and I have even a little shop actually. So they are not cash businesses anymore, and it's a real shame. And what I've realized when I started talking to you about this was the amount of people or companies rather, that I have to go through to get my money in. And each one takes a slice.
Yeah,
so
percentage off.
It's incredible. For example, with the renting the rooms, I only have 4 little bedrooms, but they have to go through at least 2 booking platforms. Then they have to go through Square, and sometimes it goes through PayPal as well. So by the time it's taken off, as a very small local business, I end up with a much smaller part of the cake.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, it's interesting.
It's not even a cake, it's a biscuit by then.
Visa and MasterCard, who are obviously 2 huge American corporations, between them they take the equivalent of $1 billion a year out of the British economy. Yeah. And in the end, that's coming from
people like me.
People like you and your customers.
Yeah.
And do we need to see that happening? If you get £1 and it's processed as £1 cash, it stays £1 cash, whereas if you, as you say, if you have a card transaction, digital transaction, it becomes 97p or 95p or 90p.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I have started seeing cafes, I think I sent you a photograph of one, which have got outside written cash only.
Yeah.
And I think that's really good and healthy. And I was thinking more and more about local small businesses and how we have had such a challenging time with COVID and high street and all the rest of the stuff that's going on. That's affecting retailers and the hospitality industry so severely. And if we could all work together to have a cash campaign and encourage our customers to support local businesses by paying cash. Not that we're going to hide the cash by any means, but we will actually, as you say, have £1 worth £1 instead of £1 worth 75p.
Yeah, absolutely. So I read in the Sunday Times an article about you a couple of years ago, and I was really struck with it, by it, because you were saying, firstly, having thought about it, you're going to start using more cash again.
Yes.
And then you had said something about the banks. You said banks have to be watched very carefully to make sure they're acting in the public interest.
Yes, well, absolutely. I mean, I have been a consultant to a number of banks over the years. And of course, they're essential to our economy in many, many ways, but we don't need everything to be done according to the banks. And somebody actually said to me earlier today, one of your team, and it's true, we're actually walking blindfolded towards a cashless future, which of course we can see in China and other countries, and it's ludicrous because we've completely reliant on power and the internet and digital technology, which can go in a heartbeat. And we've already seen whether it would be in Spain and Portugal when the power went down, or whether Marks and Spencer's and Co-op, all the stuff that's been happening with them, how losing all that money, to be relying from even the big retailers, to be relying purely on digital payments is a very, very unhealthy way to be.
We always say cash never crashes.
Yes.
Digital can crash and frequently
very much does.
Yeah.
And I think the other big thing that I'm passionate about, which we've talked about before, is the amount of women that live in abused households. It's 4 million, isn't it? And the way to get away from that abuse, horrible domestic situation for many, is by saving up bits of cash, because they can't have cards, they don't have cards, they haven't got access to cards. So freedom really is about them saving up that bit of cash, which is how it was done in the past. So I feel very passionate about that. Also the fact that it's a lot easier to look after your spending and your budgets with cash. It's a very feminine thing, I think. I mean, not that men don't need cash, but I think it's very, very important. And of course,
making family budgets
budgets work. And it's a lot easier to do that with cash. And then, of course, not only am I a woman, but I'm also one of the elders these days. And it's learning all that technology. I mean, I have to do it, and I do it, but it took a while. But I see people of my age and older who really are having a difficult time and perhaps don't even have access to using an ATM machine. And thank goodness for the post office. I mean, I live in rural Somerset, and we don't have any banks in, I should think, probably a sort of 15-mile, 20-mile even radius, if that. And we don't have a lot of ATM machines. So most people use the post office. We've got an ATM at the Co-op, we've got one at the local Morrison's, and that stretches over a large period of space to supply people.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, what happens when we can't get it? And the other thing, I have to say 2 other things actually, because I feel really cross about them, and they've only come up because I was researching this whole subject so deeply, knowing that I was going to be speaking today with you, is firstly, I had no idea that the police could arrest anybody with £1,000 plus on them if they have any suspicion that they might be doing something wrong, and that could be a mistake. And you then have to prove every single receipt and invoice of where you got that money from, which is unbelievable. Really,
it's an infringement of liberty.
It really is a very big infringement. And the other thing that I thought was extraordinary was how, and I have experienced this myself, how difficult the banks make it to take your cash out. I wanted to take some money out. I was travelling. I wanted a few £1,000s to take out of an account. And I had to sit there for hours and hours and was asked very personal questions, and in a very accusatory way. And in a very resentful way, the bank finally gave me my money, not their money.
Yeah, exactly.
So all these things add up to a situation where we really, really must keep the balance of cash, digital. We need both. Bank apps and all the rest are very, very helpful, but we must keep the cash in the system.
Well, it's interesting. At least they didn't ask you in the bank, has your husband approved this? That's changed a bit over the years.
That wasn't even that long ago when we had to do that. If a woman wanted a mortgage, she had to have a husband signing off. That's
I know.
Unbelievable. Not very long
Thankfully,
before.
that's changed. Well, when we were starting Payment Choice Alliance, we just obviously believed in cash ourselves, but we didn't want to do this for a few people who were believers. We wanted to talk to the public. So we had the public surveyed through YouGov, and 71% of the public said that they thought that their cash should be accepted by businesses. They said there should be a legal obligation for the cash to be accepted. And in fact, until a few years ago, people thought that the legal tender rules meant that cash had to be accepted, but it doesn't actually mean that. So they want a law introduced. Are you sympathetic to that? Is it saying that cash should be accepted?
I am. I mean, as much as you see the occasional restaurants or shops saying cash only, you see far more saying no cash. And I think that's terrible. So yeah, I absolutely do think that we ought to have cash taken everywhere legally. Very interesting. Very interestingly, when I was in Greece the other day, which of course also had a big economic meltdown, I saw cash machines on every street corner on Mykonos in the town. Obviously it's a tourist town. But Greeks obviously had lost a lot of money when their banks went down, and so these days they want to keep their cash as much as they can. So it's very important.
Yeah, well, Lynne Franks, has been a delight speaking to you. Thank you very much, and thank you for your support, and I hope that all women benefit, because it's certainly the case that so many women depend on cash, you say, to escape from abusive relationships, but just to live their lives in a way that they can afford to do. They budget using cash and so on. So thanks very much for your support. Lovely talking to you today.
Thank you very much, Ron. Thank you.